Summer Game Fest of 2026 has come and went, and I have to say that I was very pleasantly surprised by some of the titles that was getting announced. Originally, when I was watching it, it started off very horror heavy, but it started to balance itself out as it got deeper and deeper into the program. I personally liked it quite a bit because it did cut down on the ads and things along those lines, and we mainly just focused on games, and I really appreciate that quite a bit. I do have a few takeaways from this Summer Game Fest of 2026. For one, I seen a preview for Lords of the Fallen 2. I've never played the original game, but at least looking at the preview for the second Lords of the Fallen does look like it's going to be potentially a dope game. I'll keep an eye on it for the future. Stellar Blade sequel has been officially confirmed. I know there's been some articles that have talked about this a little bit. I'm extremely excited for this Blood Rain sequel to the original Stellar Blade. This game is going to be featuring a character by the name of Evie, and she is going to be throwing them hands, to say the least. When I saw this trailer, it did remind me a lot of Kung Fu Masters from Blade and Soul. I'm definitely going to be playing this game whenever it comes out. I'm highly looking forward to it. One thing that I will say though is there has been online discourse with Evie in regards to the face of the character looking like a child. I personally don't think that this character looks like a child. A lot of Asian people tend to look a lot younger than what they actually are in terms of age. So for example, you could have an Asian who might be 50 years old who could only look like they're in their late 20s or early 30s. It happens. The main thing I want to primarily focus on for the next couple of minutes of this video is going to be the announcement of the next God of War installment, which is going to be God of War La Fey. Yes, there are some individuals online that have been very misogynistic about this character with the whole God of Laundry, quote unquote, memes and things along those lines. I'm going to give you my own personal POV on this. I am very indifferent to a game being focused on Kratos' wife. Now, in the terms of the lore, she is somebody who was the owner of the Leviathan axe originally, and she's actually gone toe-to-toe with some very powerful foes, apparently. I did not play God of War Ragnarok, so I don't have too much information and hands-on experience with that particular game. Between the 2018 God of War and God of War Ragnarok, it seemed like the natural progression of this game was to create a title with Atreus as the main lead, which that may still happen at some point in the future. Even if they were to age up Atreus, I'm personally not going to be a fan of this particular character. So I think picking the lesser of two evils, I have a little bit more peace with the game focusing on Kratos' wife in comparison to Atreus, who I've already clarified that I would massively hate. One thing that I did like about God of War La Fey is that with the combat, it seems like we are going back to a more OG Greek saga God of War style where we can actually do double jumps and we can actually have true aerial combat. The 2018 and the Ragnarok games were a lot more grounded. You couldn't really jump like that, and while there was certain enemies that you can kind of float a little bit with combos and whatnot, it doesn't compare to the OG God of War games. There is a cube in this game named Frank, which is throwing me off a lot because you're in this mythical world with all these different mythoses and whatnot, and then you have this stupid cube running around the place named Frank. It's just very off-putting for me personally, and this is not going to be a game that I'm going to be personally playing. I don't have a personal investment into Kratos' wife as a character. I'm not interested in knowing more about her lore or anything along those lines. I know there's been some individuals online who feel like this character having her own dedicated game cheapens her death. I don't personally have an opinion on this myself, but I do understand the sentiment that those individuals are coming from. One thing that I will say is there are people giving this narrative that if you hate this particular God of War game, then you're not a God of War fan and you're just a tourist or anything or something along those lines. My personal POV on this is that the God of War fandom consists of three different groups at this point in time. There are the people who have played every single God of War mainline game from the 2005 OG God of War 1 all the way up through Ragnarok that came out some years back. Another group is going to be the people who have only played God of War since 2018. And at the time that those individuals played God of War 2018, they didn't even know that there had been 6 mainline games prior to God of War 2018. And then there's the individuals such as myself that fall in that third category, to where we played the OG God of War games or the Greek saga, but we never really messed with the Norse God of War games due to the number of changes. I did play the 2018 God of War game, and once again, I did enjoy the Valkyrie fights a lot in that game, but there were many other elements of the game that I just personally was not a fan of. I'm not against the God of War franchise expanding out on playable characters. I don't have a problem with this at all. My issue here is you're putting front and center a character that I don't think has as much demand as Santa Monica may think. Me personally, if they were to have done a spin-off game in this same Norse mythology, I would have personally liked to have seen a game that maybe focused on on Freya, who was the former lead of the Valkyries, who has issues with Odin. I think I would have been a little bit more accepting of a game focusing on her, and maybe we could have gotten a little bit more lore on Thor, because it seems like Thor, from what little I've seen from Ragnarok anyways, seems to not really be peak Thor per se. So maybe getting a past Thor that is more locked in, maybe in better shape and things along those lines, could expand out on this particular character's lore. Beyond all of that, if they were to have created a female character, I would have preferred that this female would have been under a different mythos with no connection to Kratos at all. Because this is going to be Kratos' wife, I do feel like no matter what, she is going to be in the shadow of Kratos. Kratos has been the face of the God of War franchise for 4 console generations now at this point in time, from the PlayStation 2 all the way up through the PlayStation 5, and I understand why some people are going to be very upset about that. I completely get it. It would be no different from if Lara Croft from the Tomb Raider series all of a sudden didn't show up in a Tomb Raider game and we have some different raider, whether it's a different female or a different male. People would be very upset about that. Lara Croft is the face Tomb Raider, just like how Kratos is the face of God of War. It is what it is. With this being said, I don't think there's too much else to tell with Kratos from a story progression aspect. I didn't need God of War 2018 nor Ragnarok to understand that Kratos had a multitude of emotions to him as a character. Now, there are people who think Kratos in the OG God of War games was just a meathead, and I completely disagree with this. Even in God of War 3, where he was at his angriest, he did try to reason with certain foes that he did come across. He did try to talk things out with Hercules. Hercules wasn't listening to him. He would have left Hera alive, but Hera kept running her damn mouth, so he basically snapped her neck. Aphrodite, I don't believe he killed. He just, he had sex with her pretty much. So there were certain situations that would have played out differently if these gods just did not get in Kratos' way. Kratos was not seeking revenge against every single god in Olympus, and like Athena said, Zeus is Olympus, so they're all going to go ahead and do what they can to defend him. And so Kratos at the end of God of War 2 was basically like, all of Olympus is going to perish then. That's just how it is. One of the most cool story to gameplay elements that was ever done in the God of War franchise was actually in the OG 2005 PlayStation 2 God of War game. And during the final boss fight, Ares sends you into this different dimension, and you have the spirit of his wife and his child, and there's all these Kratos clones that are trying to kill them. And so in order to keep the family alive, Kratos is transferring his own life force into them to keep them alive and to prevent them from dying. I think this is fantastic storytelling that gets translated into a gameplay aspect, and I really don't think it's ever been done better in the series. Going back to God of War La Fey, seeing how the combat is, it does make me very, very optimistic for the God of War trilogy remake that's being worked on. This probably will not come out for another 5 years. I do hope that they pull the camera back though. If they can do that, I will be super ecstatic, and hopefully they don't go overboard with the cinematics and whatnot, because I know that's a very Sony first party thing. I'm personally not a fan of that to this degree. I do want to play the game and have more gameplay. Regardless, seeing that T.C. Carson is going to be coming back to voice act as Kratos in the trilogy remake does make me more optimistic in combination with what I've seen with the La Fey gameplay. Overall, really good game fest for 2026. I'm highly looking forward to Stellar Blade 2. As far as God of War La Fey, we'll see how it goes. Some people are going to be excited about it, some people aren't. I'm very indifferent about this game, and once again, I'm not planning on picking up this game title at all. If you had taken out the time to watch this or listen to this, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. You be safe out there. Deuces.